Tech Time Traveler here, and welcome back to another episode of mucking around with stuff that most sane people aren't interested in. This video is all about hard drives, at least hard drives from a specific era, specifically hard drives of a specific era with specific capacities between 100 megabytes and 500 or so. I know that seems a little bit too specific maybe, but I'll explain. Today, I don't think too many people worry too greatly about hard drive space. A measly terabyte will cover the average person's needs, and more space is always cheaply available if required. Sitting here in 2023, I have nearly 20 terabytes available to me right now, and if it weren't for saving a constant stream of 4K video to feed my YouTube habit, I'd probably be able to subsist on that space for the rest of my natural life. I'm not even sure what all I have on my array. Some of the stuff on there has followed me around for eons, and with the amount of space I have left over, I have little incentive to comb through it and maybe thin the herd. However, in the 1980s, hard drives were more of a luxury item. Hard drive space was so expensive back then, like anything computer related, an average family like ours didn't simply just walk out and buy more megs when we ran out of room. Look at this ad from 1988. $599 for a paltry 80 megabytes. That's $1,400 today. Nope, we had 30 megabytes in our IBM AT, and we had to make do with that for at least several years. Since space was so limited back then, one really had to stay on top of their file management. Sure, software back then was much smaller than it is today, and we didn't have gigabytes of photos and videos to worry about. But still, if a decent game was 1 megabyte, and you had a few of them plus an operating system and all your dad's stuff, yeah, sooner or later you'd have to delete something in order to load up something else. Or back it up onto one of these and pray that it would give you your stuff back later.
I remember that stuff you told me to remember. I kind of forgot it all. Sorry.
I think that if you were like most average computer owners back then, you just kind of took your chances and stuff occasionally got lost. Or worse, maybe you deleted something your dad needed for work and you had until 6 p.m. to retrieve it somehow or find out what brilliant shade of purple he could turn. It's because I had to practice such careful conservation that I vividly remember hard drive capacities of that era so well. At some point in the early 90s, prices really started to get somewhat reasonable, and now that I was making $8 an hour working in manufacturing, I could actually afford an upgrade here and there. The last two hard drive capacities I distinctly remember having were 100 megabytes, which I think was a Connor drive I picked up to give my BBS more storage capacity, and 1 gigabyte, which to me in the early 90s was just an incomprehensible amount of space. That I filled up in a few weeks. After that, my memory gets a little fuzzy as capacities increased exponentially and quite frequently, and I didn't really see the need to worry so much about space anymore. And that's how we get to this video today. You might recall a while back I made a video about this quote-unquote Commodore 46 tower I got from a client. It was just a generic PC, but the Commodore branding was actually licensed from Commodore Canada before Commodore went under in 1994, so this wasn't some kind of SCOM kind of deal. The client gave me the machine for free as part of an upgrade, but on condition I destroy, and I mean destroy, its original hard drive. Anyway, when the time came to make a video, I realized I couldn't do a decent demonstration without a hard drive. I went on the web to try and figure out what capacity it might have had, and there I was reminded of a bunch of oddball disk capacities I hadn't thought of in nearly 30 years. That's the thing about getting old, you really start memory holing stuff somewhere in your 20s. It's like the video I did about setting up a Teleguard BBS a while back. For years I had thought I had only run Teleguard version 2.7 for my board because I remembered its sysop screen so well. However, during the research for that video I chanced upon some old FidoNet chats from the late 90s, and there, right in the tagline of a message I wrote, was Teleguard 3.0, which was significantly different than 2.7. As soon as I saw that, some very long buried memories came to the surface again. The same thing happened when I was looking up capacities for this Commodore tower. When I saw these Commodore, or rather 3D microcomputers PCs, had been outfitted with drives ranging from 200 megabytes to 500 megabytes, suddenly I remembered buying drives that had those very capacities way back when. But because the sizes escalated so quickly in a relatively short time frame, and because those sizes didn't sound as impressive as 100 megabytes or 1 gigabyte, I'd completely forgotten about them, and that I'd actually owned some of them. Anyway, I ended up doing my Commodore video without the correct drive. After going through my inventory, I was quite surprised to realize that the lowest capacity drives I had left were 4 gigabytes or greater. That wasn't a problem for the 486 though, I just rigged up a 6 gigabyte Quantum Bigfoot and carried on. But afterwards I decided I wanted to refit this machine with a period correct drive, so I set out looking for one. Now, I know drives between 100 megabytes and 1 gigabyte are over 30 years old now. Most have long since gone to the recycler, and those that remain, well, how much time could they have left, really? Hard drives, unlike ICs and such, are mechanical devices, and that means it's not a matter of if, but when they break. And at 30 years, it really can't be much longer before they're all broken, right? True enough. And yes, I know about the more practical alternatives to the real thing. I could quite easily adapt this Commodore Tower and any other machines that need a hard drive to using a compact flash hard drive emulator. Some of them even emulate hard drive sounds now. But you see, the problem for me is that's just not good enough. I don't know. I don't get that same nostalgia hit from a compact flash card. I know it shouldn't matter, the rest of the PC will run the same way otherwise, right? But it does for me. I need the rattles and clunks of a real hard drive. To me, if I'm going to emulate that, I might as well save a lot of space and tension with my wife and just emulate everything on my main PC. Why bother at all then? No, I must have the real thing, even if it is ultimately a lost cause. I might live another 40 or 50 years, or maybe less if I keep collecting stuff. Maybe if I buy enough spares, the attrition rate will be slow enough to last the rest of my days? You see where this is going, don't you? Yep, I wasn't going to just buy one hard drive for this Commodore Tower. I'd learned my lesson from the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. No sir, never again was I going to go without Connor or Cottonelle. Anyway, I got lucky, sort of, and a few eBay sellers decided, at the moment I happened to be looking, to dump a whole bunch of IDE hard drives that had just the right capacities online. I paid $35 for 5 drives from one and $40 for 10 drives from another. I figured if I just got 1 or 2 working ones, that was money well spent, right? And so after some shipping delays, they're all here. Wow. This pile represents a substantial amount of money back in the day. There's literally thousands of dollars sitting on my table. I know for a fact some, if not most of these will not work. The sellers didn't provide any sort of warranty or even testing. There's a good chance none of these work. But if a few do, then money well spent, right? I mean, let's just say I get 5 out of 15 here, a third of them to work. Well, that'd be $10 per working drive. And you know what? That's kind of my goal. 5 drives, $10 each. Can I hit it? And what data still lurks on these beasts, if any? Let's fire up the Commodore here and find out. Okay, so let's look at our haul here. Okay, so I count 15 hard drives in total, 16 if you count this weird MFM drive from parts unknown. These are, except for the aforementioned MFM drive, all 3.5-inch IDE drives of middle child capacities, 100 megs or so up to about 600 megs. They seem to be mostly Seagate and IBM with a few random Connor and Western Digital sprinkled in. Man, handling these reminds me of how exciting it was to blow your paycheck on a new drive. No more double space, man. I think for this test we're going to leave this guy out. It has a warning note. I don't think in all my years of acquiring vintage gear I've ever gotten a warning note. I suspect this one's got some serious issues and it's not really fitting the theme anyway. So we'll take a look at that in another video. I do love the little mini front bezel though. Well, enough talking, let's dive in. Since my original goal was a hard drive for my Commodore 46, I figure it makes sense to use that machine as our test bed. We'll install the hard drives one by one in this machine and see if they're detected. If they are, we'll then see if they boot. If not, we'll probe a bit further and see what works. This Commodore features a menu-driven ME BIOS just like the one I had in my personal computer many moons ago. So we've sort of come full circle here. Anyway, I'll just plug it in on my bench. Also, for this task, I'm not going to use a period correct monitor. I only have the one, my PS2 8513, and it's a bit cranky. I'll go with this 22-inch Acer LCD here just for simplicity's sake, and it is kind of camera friendly. It'll also save me having to seek out the 15 kHz CRT whine that hurts some folks' ears. I hope. I think I'll take the modem out here. It makes this loud clicking sound every time I turn the PC on, and it kind of freaks me out because I think something's about to blow up. And we'll power up. Ah yes, I forgot the video card for this machine went bad. It has this light gray background and the text blinks. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but yeah, this isn't going to work. I'll borrow an S3 card I borrowed previously, and yeah, we'll plug that in and away we go. Much better. Okay, the PC seems good, so let's get going here. Our first victim, drive, is this Seagate model ST3144A. This drive apparently has a capacity of 130 megabytes and thus is one of the smaller ones in our pile. So let's hook it up to the 486 here and see what happens. Okay, so it does seem to spin up. I'm not hearing any clunking, but it doesn't look like the computer is picking it up. Darn it. And we'll go into the BIOS here and see if it'll detect it that way. And it sounds like the drive just powered down. Well, we're off to a fine start here, aren't we? Alright, well, let's put that on the bad pile. Okay, next up. Okay, maybe not. Yeah, the PCB on this IBM drive is loose. That probably means someone was messing around with it, so I'm just going to put it on the bad pile for now. Okay, here's another ST3144A, also 130 megs, same model. And yeah, the PCB is still screwed on, so here we go. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, no surprise there. This drive isn't being recognized either. Next. I'm not really sure what I was trying to do here, just looking for that perfect drive. Well, I guess I'd really like a Western Digital. I mean, I've been using WD for about 30 years now. This Caviar 2340 is about 340 megs. And yeah, actually, I think this may have been the original size of drive this machine came with. But will it work? Well, it seems to be spinning up alright and making the right sounds. Not looking good. It doesn't usually take this long to be recognized. I'll go into the BIOS here and see if it sees it. It does. I'm noticing the occasional click-thunk noise. This drive might be marginal. Maybe it thinks it's a zip drive. Anyway, we'll try a reboot. Yep, hanging again. Sees it, but yeah, there's an error. That clunking noise isn't sounding too promising, and yeah, it doesn't want to boot, so I don't know, guys. I'm going to put that in the maybe pile for now. You know, it could be something going on with the computer, the cable, or some jumper configuration. I'll just set it aside, just because it's being recognized. It'll be something I have to fight with later, I guess. You know, this cable is kind of ratty, actually. I don't really like how they put these IDE connectors so close to the first PCI slot like that. Just in case this cable has some damage, I'm going to try another out here that I know for sure is good. And for our next victim, hard drive, we have a Connor CFS 210A. Looks to be about 210 megabytes. Oh, 210 megabytes. Man, what couldn't you do with that back in the day? So it does seem to be recognized, but no boot though. I got this message here that I've not seen before. Is the hard drive doing that? I booted this machine without a working hard drive many times and I've never got any kind of message about missing ROM basic. Weird. I'll try a reboot here. Nope, same message. Alright, well, I suppose I should add a floppy drive here. Some of these drives probably have no OS on them or anything. Either being wiped for security or just being used as secondary drives. I'll put a 3.5-inch drive in here and we'll see if we can do anything with this drive. And in goes our DOS disk. And I'm just using a DOS 5.0 boot disk here. And yeah, I'll have to enable the drive in BIOS, I guess. The sound of 3.5-inch floppy grindage. Alright, so we're in DOS, and let's see if we can access drive C. Yes! Okay, well this one's sort of working. There's not much here except King's Quest 1 with a weird copy protection message. Man, you'll never know what you find on these things. Alright, well obviously the drive is somewhat functional. Good old Connor. I'll make a copy of KQ1 here to the floppy, and yeah, not because I need a copy of it, I have plenty, but just because I want to see how it reads from the hard drive, if it reads okay. And yeah, so far all good. Now let's see what happens if I repartition this drive and reformat. I just want to see if there's any bad sectors that come up or any other weird problems. Alright, partition deleted, and then recreated. And if only life worked like that. And then we'll reboot, and now format. I'll skip ahead here. It looks like there was one bad allocation unit, so yeah, this drive might be starting down a bad path. Oh, man, I hate when good drives go bad.
I told you them earth magnets are a bad influence. You're starting to forget who you are.
I don't have to take data from you.
Anyway, it did finish, and since I also made it a system disk, I'll remove my boot floppy and reboot, and we'll see if it starts up now. And there you go, instant DOS prompt. Alright, well, score 1, or maybe like 0.75 for Connor here. It clearly has some minor issues. Alright, next up, a Caviar 2340. That's a 341 meg drive. One of those weird numbers, you know? I don't know why they didn't just round it off. It's, you know, like 341, really? So yeah, let's see what we get. Uh-oh, that sounds like the clunk of death. Dang. Yeah, I was really hoping to get at least one working vintage WD drive here just for old time's sake, but yeah, it's not going to be this one, unfortunately. And the dead pile is growing steadily here. Okay, next is a Seagate ST3491A. That is a Metalist 428 megabyte hard drive. What a beast. I have great hopes for the Seagates in my pile here. This was back before Seagate introduced those awful 1 terabyte hard drives with firmware issue. These old ones definitely seem to be very stout. And it spins up. And it's recognized. Although you'll note the size is wrong. Something I forgot to correct. Okay, I'm going to boot up here, blissfully forgetting that this old Commodore tower doesn't have the ability to auto-detect hard drive sizes on the fly. Okay, well, I'll spare you the suspense. The drive is formatted fine, albeit at the wrong capacity. And it worked, but yeah, at the time I was making the video, I wasn't always aware of the BIOS missing the disk sizes. And yeah, that would come back to haunt me even more later. Anyway, even with the wrong BIOS info, you can see it boots and copies just fine. So that'll be our first quote-unquote win. Next we have a Western Digital Caviar 2120, 125 megs it looks like. I don't know why, but 100-ish megabytes still gives me a thrill just as it did when I was a kid. Well, it kinda sounds okay, but yeah, there's a bit of a clunk there. And yeah, we're getting a BIOS error. And again, I didn't go into the BIOS like I should have and have the software auto-detect it. So it might be that. Yep, nothing doing here. Alright, well, so much for that. That clunk in the hard error definitely had me thinking it might be this drive just being a bit of a pile. Speaking of piles, let's put it on the bad pile. And for our viewing pleasure, it's a Seagate ST3391A. This is 343 megabytes, enough for like maybe a minute of 4K video. Wow. And right away the BIOS sees it, so that's excellent. That and manually auto-detect that drive and see what happens. Okay, well that's better. I don't know how precise the old AMI BIOS was with sizes. In the old days, manufacturers sometimes were a bit misleading and defined, say, a kilobyte as 1000 bytes for marketing purposes rather than 1024. So the actual size of a drive could vary from its label a little. Anyway, let's see if we have any digital archaeology here. Yes! Oh, I love this. This is, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on here. Some of it I recognize. Looks like the standard DOS and Windows stuff. Lotus 123. God, I don't miss Lotus 123. Chess. And, yeah, my old friend WordPerfect 5. WinFax. Word. Yep. This looks like a Windows 3.1 box, maybe. And, yeah, Windows won't run without the config sys loaded properly. So, yeah, let's pull the boot floppy and see if she'll start. And yes, it does. Ah, good old HiMem. I spent many frustrating hours with that trying to get my 8 megs of memory configured correctly on my old 486. I bought that RAM in something kind of resembling a drug deal. And yep, here's good old Windows 3.11, aka Windows for Workgroups. This may be an actual workstation from an office, but I knew a lot of people who pirated the Workgroups version of 3.1, so I don't know. Windows 3.1 never really appealed to me that much in general. I liked the what you see is what you get versions of Microsoft Office, especially Word, but I found 3.1 to be slow and mostly unnecessary for the most part. Just listen to that awesome clicking sound. That's the kind of thing that emulation can't really do convincingly yet for me. Alright, so far nothing exciting here. I have to remember my way around Windows 3.1. What's this? Metroscan? Transamerica. This looks like some kind of real estate software. Maybe this PC really was an office machine. Transamerica is a big company with portfolios in life insurance and investment. Maybe this was a tool for appraisal of some sort. Unfortunately, when I click on a county from the list here, we get nothing because it's looking for a CD. Darn it. But this is a sample of what might have appeared. It's basically used for getting detailed info on a property, things like the value, square footage, etc. It'd be kind of cool to see what property values back in the early 90s were sitting at compared to now. I did look at the README to see what other info I could glean about it, but yeah, there's just not much there apart from generalities. Oh, and fun fact, I didn't have a serial mouse at hand, so all this clicking around is basically muscle memory from running Windows using just keystrokes. Yeah, it's a little tricky. Let's see here, there's this thing called 1995 GME. What's that? Doesn't seem to do much. Okay, here's another window with Microsoft Office, and here's some familiar stuff, Print Shop, Word, Procom Plus, and then there's this Lucero listing management. Yeah, this must have been a real estate company's computer. I wonder how the drive ended up surviving. Maybe an upgrade? Password. Alright, well, I've tried the usuals like God, password, and your mom, and yeah, they don't work. Kind of reminds me of this guy who tied up our IT help desk for about a half hour when he told us his password was incorrect. Like it was literally incorrect. Like literally the password was incorrect. See what I mean? You can't even describe it. Yeah, but that doesn't work either. Alright, so here's a print shop. Yeah, I remember having some fun with this back in the day. Printed all kinds of stuff. Man, it seemed so advanced at the time. Graphics Explorer seems to be an export tool of some kind. And let's check out the applications. MWAV, what's that? Oh, it's Microsoft Antivirus for Windows. Windows Defender's grandfather or estranged great uncle. And Delrina WinFax. Oh yes, this is familiar. When I was working sales once upon a time, WinFax was absolutely essential. I remember feeling like pretty hot stuff running that. So businessy. Alright, let's get a Windows here, and I just want to see if Lucero has any easy way to bypass passwords. I'm hoping this is one of those ancient DOS programs where the password was stored in an easy to hack or delete file. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything obvious here. Well, if anyone's ever heard of Lucero and knows how to break into it, let me know. Well, let's go visit my old friend. I ran WordPerfect 5.1, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be here, but the 5.0 directory seems to be full up here, and yeah, that works. Pretty close. Man, we've come so far. It's hard to believe we used to type on something like this and then just hope that the formatting came out correctly on the printer at the end. Alright, let's move on here. Next up, we have a Western Digital Caviar 1210, 212 whole ass megabytes, to use a phrase popular with kids these days. Haven't had too much luck with Western Digital so far, but maybe this will be different. Yipe. No, that doesn't sound healthy at all. W to the T to the F. The anxiety that wait prompt gives me, even now, 30 years later. I had some hard drive failures back in the day, and this message always told me I was in trouble. Alright, well, let's run setup anyway, and I'll see if we can auto-detect it. Nope. Well, I guess that's going to the dead pile. Strike 2, WD. And our next contestant is an IBM drive with a very typically IBM, very unfriendly model number, DSAA3270 looks like. Yeah, appears to be 270 megabytes. IBM used to make a decent product back in the day, back before they became the Death Stars. And spin up sounds alright. And we're back to that darned wait message again. Dang it. I wonder if this has something to do with jumpers. I mean, I'm sure it was jumpered correctly. I mean, most computers usually just had a single drive, but I'll try changing and see what happens anyway. I'm just trying anything here. Ah, it's detected. Missing operating system. Okay. Well, let's try booting off the disk maybe and see what's there. Well, there does appear to be something here. Not a ton of stuff, and of course Windows won't run like this. Alright, well, we'll try a reboot. Yep, missing operating system again. Well, might as well check out the program files directory here. So far it looks like pretty standard stuff. Oh my god, is that ICQ? Oh man, now that brings back some memories. Back in the days before text messages, getting that sound was really exciting. That meant somebody actually wanted to communicate with me. I actually have a trove of old ICQ messages from way back then. There's a tool you can use to decrypt the database and see what you were saying. It's so weird looking at messages between myself and my wife and friends from over 20 years ago. I don't remember those conversations at all. It feels like I'm watching some kind of weird other dimension version of myself. Anyway, ICQ can be kind of personal, so yeah, I'm not going to decrypt this database here, but I don't want to destroy it either. I'll just make a backup here in case, and yeah, you never know. Alright, let's format it here. Yeah, it looks good, no errors. Now, will it boot? Nope. Darn it. What's going on here? Maybe I need to redo the partition. Alright, one more try with formatting. And reboot. Yay, it works! I guess the machine didn't like the partition for some reason. Well, this just seems to be working fine. Yeah, so that'll go on the very short good pile. Alright, and we have another DSAA 3270. 270 megabytes. Yeah, let's see if we can go 2 for 2. Spins up okay. And we've got a primary master HDD error. Yeah, that's not good. That usually means we have a problem. Alright, well, moving along, here is a Connor CP3024H. Yeah, they're trying to outdo IBM for unfriendly model numbers. And according to the interwebs, this is a 252 megabyte unit. Let's see if Connor can put another one up on the board or disappoint some more. And once again, wait shuts us down. A quick check of jumpers, because if a trick works once, maybe it works twice. Zippo. Alright, well, to the bad pile with you, Mr. Connor. Your brother is very disappointed, though. Alright, back to Seagate. Specifically, a model ST3630A. This is a big boy. 630 megabytes to hold all the pirated software you could have handled in 1992. I'll lay a wager this one at least sort of works. Or, you know, maybe not. I'll try Control-Alt-Delete here. I found sometimes older drives are a little slow to initialize, and a reboot catches them in a better mood. Yeah, but not in this case. Alright, the next car in our train of disappointment may be the second Connor CP30254, which appears to have a capacity again of 240 megabytes. Well, let's see what she can do. Well, this is a good sign. The tyranny of weight has ended. Or not. Dang it. Let's check those jumpers. I mean, it can't hurt. And we'll plug in again. And again, an error. Okay, I'll try going to the BIOS here and auto-detecting again. And, yeah, it looks right. Ooh, no error. It's booting from floppy, though, which I forgot to pull. But, yeah, let's see what happens. Nice. We can read it. And it appears that its owner was using doublespace. Wow. I haven't seen or thought of doublespace in eons. Ugh, it's been way too long. Let's reboot and see what happens. Yes, she boots. Windows 95. Wow. You know, to be honest, I really don't get much nostalgia from Windows 95. I mean, I get a bit of nostalgia remembering the launch and the excitement of going from command line to a GUI and all that, but I also remember Windows 95 being a pain in the assistant district attorney to get going on my ramshackle 46, and even then I found it really slow and unreliable. I actually only used it for a few weeks and then went back to DOS for a few months. Only when game support forced me to use it did I finally make the switch for good, and really only grudgingly. Man, listen to that Connor drive work. I'm sorry, no emulator can touch the sweet sound of digital stressing out. Wow, a Scanjet 2 driver. I don't even remember what HP scanners back then looked like. Holy cow, what a monster. And here we are at the famed Windows 95 desktop with its very basic icons and uncluttered taskbar, presently in 16 color mode because of course the drivers for the video card for this are different because this is a totally different computer. Well, let's see what we have. We have PhotoWorks. Let's give that a try. Did our user leave any pictures? Oh, so this is where 1990s computer came from. Wow. I always assumed nasty pictures were scanned by some college kid misusing their university's Apple scanner, not Mr. Joe Straight-Laced with a Scanjet at work. Good lord. I don't know. Should I open it?
Yes,
Do it
definitely.
100%.
I say give her. I love history.
Alright, but you know this is a G-rated channel, so I can't actually show you this stuff. Only me and my 5 clones here will be able to check this out for, you know, historical purposes. And of course it doesn't open. Apparently there was a drive D that we don't have, and I would have noticed that if I wasn't so busy getting excited over the prospect of vintage 90s. Now that I'm positively haunted by the possibility that quality scanned pictures from the 90s might be on one of those apparently dead hard drives, yeah, this is not good, folks. Now, what's this? Win pop-up? Never heard of it. It's like some kind of chat system. Yeah, I think I better send myself a message. Alright, I don't know where that message will turn up, but yeah, hopefully somebody isn't really confused. Alright, let's explore the hard drive a bit. Yeah, no X-rated stuff here. I'm afraid to open that in-out folder though. After seeing what someone was up to previously with this setup, and who is Wendy? Actually, this looks very much like a work PC. Check out Exchange there. Actually, you check out Exchange. I'm going to check out... Ooh, it appears Wendy is... Alright, I really should have hooked up a mouse here. Using keys alone in Windows 95 is kind of tricky. Oh look, the double-space C drive is called Sales. I wonder what Mr. Scanjet was selling. Alright, let's use PhotoWorks and see how icy Wendy is. Yep, that's pretty icy. Looks to be about -20 there. Alright, stand down, fellas. Wait, maybe this was Wendy's computer. Was she misappropriating a company scanner? Wow, you really don't know a person until you creep their 30-year-old hard drive. I'm disappointed in you, Wendy. Well, that's about all I can be bothered with on this one. Alright, here's one more Connor, and it looks like another 250 meg drive. Will this be a winner? 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And the wait message does its best impression of a bar bouncer again. Alright, moving along. And we have another Western Digital Caviar 1210 here again, 212 megs. Will this one redeem the Western Digital name? Kinda sounds like it's initializing. Why, you worthless son of a... Yeah, so it auto-detects. What's going on here? What's with this drive not ready nonsense? Oh, wait, let's boot off a floppy here and see what happens. And we'll run fdisk. Nope, not working. I'll try messing with jumpers again. And hey, it went right past the wait message, but will it do anything? Nope. Okay, let's try going into BIOS again. Well, this can't be good. Yeah, okay, this drive is pooched. Next. And here we have a Seagate ST3491A, and that is 428 megabytes of joy right in my hand here. Will Seagate pull out another goal? It does claim to be a medalist. Yeah, no endless wait message. Just went straight to boot. Let's check the BIOS first. Okay, yeah, so it kind of shows up. Let's see. Nope, drive C doesn't show up, and fdisk doesn't see it at all. Alright, I'll check the jumpers, but I'm real doubtful that that'll move the ball any here. And we'll reconnect and try again. Nope, not found. Okay, so yeah, not looking good so far. With just 3 known working drives and 6 apparently dead ones, while it certainly doesn't appear that I've massively overspent, I'm still nowhere near my per drive target cost. And I'm going to pause here because frankly, I'm becoming a little bit suspicious of this test rig. I'm beginning to think that this old 46 quote-unquote Commodore tower has some issues going on. I know these are 30-year-old plus hard drives, but I feel like some of the strange behavior I've witnessed suggests my machine here is not up to snuff. I actually went and plugged in one of the supposedly dead drives to my Pentium 3 bridge rig, and voila, it worked like a hot damn. So, you know what, I'm going to call time on this project here, retool, maybe swap pictures here, and see if we can get a better result with my Pentium 3 box. Then I'll retest all the allegedly dead drives and carry on testing the remainder I haven't gotten to yet. So yeah, I will see you shortly in the next video. Until then, thanks so much for watching.